I found your cucumber stash, Folake. You're disgusting. Demilade's voice exploded through their Banana Island mansion at 11 p.m., waking the entire household. He stood in their bedroom doorway, holding a shopping bag, his face twisted with rage and humiliation. Behind him, their live-in housekeeper Blessing and his younger sister Ronk stood frozen in shock. You've been buying these things behind my back. He dumped the contents onto their king-sized bed, 3 cucumbers of various sizes, still in plastic wrap from the grocery store, along with lubricant. I checked the kitchen CCTV. You sneak them from the fridge at night. How long has this been going on? Folake sat up slowly, her silk nightgown slipping off one shoulder. At 32, she was still stunning. Former Miss Lagos runner-up, smooth bronze skin, curves that turned heads. But her eyes held something dangerous tonight. Something broken finally snapping into place. 2 years, she said quietly. I've been using cucumbers for 2 years, Demilade. The room went deathly silent. Ronk gasped. Folake, what are you saying? I'm saying your brother's manhood is the size of my thumb. Folake's voice grew stronger, louder. I'm saying that in 4 years of marriage, I have never had an orgasm with him. Not once. I'm saying I'd rather pleasure myself with vegetables than suffer through another 2 minutes of his pathetic attempts at sex. You ungrateful witch. Demilade lunged forward, but Ronk grabbed his arm. Folake stood up, trembling with years of suppressed rage. Ungrateful? I've spent 4 years pretending. 4 years lying to your face, moaning fake pleasure while you finished in 90 seconds. For years watching you strut around Lagos like you're God's gift to women when you can barely. Shut up. Demilade roared. Blessing, leave. Ronk, get out. Now. But Folake was done with silence. No. Everyone should know. The great Demilade Ogunlade, billionaire property developer, can't satisfy his own wife. That's why I use cucumbers, because at least vegetables don't come with egos. Hello guys. Welcome to Stories by Stoner. Thank you so much for your incredible support. You keep these stories coming. Before we dive deeper into this explosive mess, drop a comment telling me where you're watching from, and what would you do if you discovered your partner's secret like this. Now let's continue. Ronk stood in the doorway, torn between loyalty to her brother and the horrible truth hanging in the air. Blessing had already fled downstairs, probably calling everyone she knew. Demilade's hands shook. You're evil. You know my condition is medical. The doctor said. The doctor said you could get treatment, therapy, surgery. But your precious ego wouldn't allow it. Folake's voice cracked. Instead, you blamed me. Said I wasn't attractive enough, wasn't supportive enough, wasn't trying hard enough. You made me feel broken when you're the one who refused to fix the problem. I provide everything for you. Demilade's voice turned cold. This mansion, your Range Rover, your boutique, your mother's medical bills, everything. And you remind me every single day. Folake, don't forget who paid for this. Folake, remember where you came from. You think money replaces intimacy, affection, basic human connection? Ronk finally spoke, her voice small. Folake, this is between you and my brother. Why embarrass him like this? Because I'm tired, Ronk. Folake's tears finally came. Tired of pretending. Tired of feeling guilty for having normal human needs. Tired of being controlled and manipulated and gaslit into thinking I'm the problem. Demilade's expression shifted from rage to something more calculated. More dangerous. You want to destroy me? Fine. But I will bury you. By morning, everyone in Lagos will know what a disloyal, ungrateful snake you are. You'll never work in this city again. Your family will disown you. And you'll leave this house with nothing. I don't care anymore. You will. He pulled out his phone. I'm calling my lawyers. And the Owusu family, remember them? The family whose daughter was interested in me before I chose you? Their son is a psychiatrist. I'm sure he'd be happy to evaluate your mental state. After all, what sane woman broadcasts her husband's private medical condition? Folake's blood ran cold. You wouldn't. Watch me. By tomorrow, you'll be committed for psychiatric evaluation. And while you're locked up being treated, I'll make sure every asset, every bank account, every connection you have disappears. He smiled without warmth. You think cucumbers are your biggest problem? Wait until you have nothing. Not even vegetables. He stormed out, Ronk scurrying after him. Folake sank onto the bed, surrounded by the evidence of her secret shame, and realized she'd just started a war she might not survive. Downstairs, she heard Demilade's voice on the phone. Yes, Uncle Segan. I need your help. My wife is having a breakdown. Yes, very serious. I think she needs to be hospitalized. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more gripping stories like this. Do you think Folake was right to expose him, or did she go too far? Comment below. By 6 a.m., Folake's phone had exploded with 247 messages and 89 missed calls. She hadn't slept. How could she, knowing Demilade was downstairs orchestrating her destruction? The first message was from her mother, Mama Ibukan. What have you done? Pastor Adeyemi called me at midnight. The whole church is talking. Call me now. The second was from her best friend Njideka. Girl, you're trending on Instagram. It's bad. Really bad. Don't open social media. Of course, Folake opened social media. Lagos gossip blog T Spills Niger had the headline, Billionaire's wife admits to using cucumbers, husband's manhood size of thumb. The story had everything, quotes from anonymous household staff, blurry photos of their mansion, speculation about Demilade's medical condition. The comments section was a war zone. This woman is wicked. You don't shame your husband publicly like this. But why should she suffer in silence? Sexual compatibility matters. She married him for money, now she's complaining? Opportunist. Y'all are blaming her? The man refused treatment. That's selfish. Folake's hands trembled as she scrolled. Then she saw it. A video. Someone had secretly recorded last night's confrontation. The audio was muffled but clear enough. Your brother's manhood is the size of my thumb. I'd rather pleasure myself with vegetables. 90 seconds. The video had 45,000 views already, growing by the second. A knock on her bedroom door made her jump. Madam. It was Blessing, the housekeeper, her voice nervous. Ogre said you should pack your things. He wants you out by 9 a.m. Out. This is my home. Madam, please. He's very angry. He said if you don't leave willingly, he'll call the police. Say you're trespassing. Folake threw the door open. Blessing stepped back, frightened. Trespassing? In my own house. It's not your house, madam. Blessing looked miserable. Ogre showed me the papers this morning. The deed is only in his name. He said you have no legal right to be here. The floor seemed to tilt. That's impossible. We bought this house together. I'm sorry, madam. That's what Ogre said. Folake pushed past her, storming downstairs. Demilade sat in the dining room, eating breakfast like nothing had happened. His lawyer, Barrister Okonkwo, an older man in expensive agbada, sat beside him reviewing documents. Demilade, you can't throw me out. He didn't even look up. Barrister Okonkwo, please explain to my soon-to-be ex-wife her legal standing. The lawyer adjusted his glasses. Mrs. Ogunlade, this property is solely owned by your husband. The vehicle you drive is registered in his name. The boutique you operate is licensed under his company. Legally speaking, you have no independent assets. What? No. My boutique. I worked on that. With his funding on his premises, Using his business license, Barrister Okonkwo continued emotionlessly. Your joint bank account has been frozen pending divorce proceedings. Your personal account, which receives monthly deposits from your husband, has been closed. You currently have no access to funds. Folake's legs buckled. She grabbed the back of a chair. You planned this. You've been planning this. Demilade finally looked at her, his expression blank. I prepared for eventualities. A wise businessman always does. I never thought you'd be stupid enough to betray me, but here we are. Betray you? I told the truth. You humiliated me. Damaged my reputation. Cost me business relationships. He took a sip of orange juice. Uncle Segan pulled out of our Lekki development deal this morning. That's 800 million naira lost. Because of your big mouth. Maybe if you'd fixed the problem instead of hiding it. Enough. Demilade's fist slammed the table. You have 1 hour. Pack your clothes. Only what you came into this marriage with. Everything I bought you stays. Keys to the Range Rover boutique, everything. Leave them on the counter. Where am I supposed to go? That's no longer my concern. He returned to his breakfast. Oh, and Folake. I filed for divorce this morning. Grounds: mental instability, public defamation, and suspected infidelity. Infidelity? I never cheated. Barrister Okonkwo produced more papers. We have evidence that you've been communicating with a Mr. Tund Bassi, a gym instructor. Suspicious meetings at cafes. Intimate text messages. Folake's heart stopped. Tund. The kind gym instructor who'd listened to her problems. Who'd made her laugh when Demilade made her cry. They'd only talked. Nothing more, but we were friends. That's all. The court will decide that, Demilade said coldly. But a woman who admits to using cucumbers because her husband doesn't satisfy her, then secretly meets with another man? The narrative writes itself. Folake realized the trap closing around her. You're destroying me. No. You destroyed yourself. I'm just finishing what you started. He stood, buttoning his suit jacket. 1 hour. Folake. Then I call the police. 53 minutes later, Folake stood outside the mansion gates with 2 suitcases containing clothes she'd owned before marriage. Outdated styles, worn fabrics, nothing worth the woman she'd become. Her phone had 12% battery. Her bank account, 0 naira. Her pride, shattered. She called Njideka. Didi, I need help. Can I stay with you? Long pause. Folake. My husband said no. He said you're trouble. That getting involved with you will hurt his business connections with Demilade. Didi, please. You're my best friend. I'm sorry. I really am. But I have kids to think about. A marriage to protect. Njideka's voice cracked. You should have thought about consequences before you exposed him. The line went dead. Folake tried her cousin Patience. Her university roommate Zainab. Her church small group leader. Same response. Sympathy, but no help. Demilade's influence reached everywhere. Finally, she called her mother. Mama, I need to come home. Home. Mama Ibukan's voice was cold. You mean the house your husband pays rent for? The one he called this morning threatening to stop payments if I harbor you. He did what? Your brother's business, your sister's school fees. Demilade handles everything, Folake. Everything. And you've jeopardized it all because you couldn't keep your mouth shut about private matters. Mama, he was destroying me. No. You destroyed yourself. You destroyed this family. Her mother's voice broke. I raised you better than this. I taught you that marriage requires sacrifice, suffering, endurance. But you're too modern, too selfish, too human, too deserving of basic respect. Don't call again until you're ready to apologize to your husband and beg him to take you back. That's the only solution. The line went dead. Folake stood on the street corner in Banana Island, one of Lagos's wealthiest neighborhoods, with nowhere to go. Her phone died. Rain began to fall. A security guard from a nearby estate approached. "Madam, you can't loiter here. Move along." "I just need to." I said move. "Or I'll call police." As Folake walked aimlessly with her suitcases, soaked through, she passed a newspaper vendor. The headline on Lagos Daily read, "Billionaire files for divorce, wife's mental health in question." Below, a quote from anonymous family sources. "She's always been unstable. The family tried to get her help, but she refused." This cucumber incident is just the latest in a pattern of disturbing behavior. They were rewriting history, making her the villain. And Lagos, conservative, patriarchal, money-worshipping Lagos, was eating it up. Folake found herself at a bus stop, shivering, defeated. An elderly woman selling oranges watched her with pity. "Husband trouble?" the woman asked gently. Folake could only nod. "They all terrible," the woman said. "But rich ones? Rich ones are the worst. They buy you, then act surprised when you want to be human." Something in those words sparked a memory. Years ago, before Demilade, Folake had been fierce, independent, a fighter. Somewhere in silk sheets and Range Rovers, she'd forgotten. She pulled out her last 500 naira note, emergency money hidden in her bra. "Thank you," she told the orange seller. "Do you know where I can find a cheap hotel?" "Hotel? With 500 naira?" The woman laughed, not unkindly. "Baby girl, there's a women's shelter in Yoba. They take people like you. No questions asked." Folake swallowed her pride. "How do I get there?" As the Danfo bus rumbled toward Yoba, packed with sweaty bodies and chaotic energy, Folake made a decision. Demilade thought he'd won. Thought money and power meant victory. He'd forgotten that the woman he married had clawed her way from Surulere to Miss Lagos semi-finals with nothing but determination. That woman was still inside her, buried, bruised, but not broken. This wasn't over. It was just beginning. What do you think will happen when Folake reaches the shelter? Can she really fight back against a billionaire? Drop your comments and don't forget to subscribe. The women's shelter in Yoba was called New Dawn Home, a name that felt cruelly ironic as Folake stepped through its peeling green gates. The building was a converted 3-bedroom bungalow, now housing 17 women and 12 children. The smell hit her first. Cassava fufu cooking, baby formula, desperation. "You the cucumber woman?" asked the intake coordinator, a heavy-set woman named Sister Margaret, not unkindly. "Saw you on Instagram. Whole Lagos talking." Folake's face burned. "I just need somewhere to stay. Temporarily." "They all say temporary." Sister Margaret handed her a clipboard. "Fill this. We have rules here. No men visitors, share cooking duties, lights out at 10 p.m. Bed space is 2,000 naira per week. You have money." Folake counted her remaining cash. 350 naira. Not enough. But I can. Work," Sister Margaret finished. "You can help with cleaning, cooking, watching the children. We'll waive first week's fee." She studied Folake's designer jeans and silk blouse. "You ever cleaned before?" "Real cleaning, not supervising housegirls." "I can learn." "You better. Pride doesn't feed you here." Folake's roommates were 3 women who. Go on. Jan 4 Chapter 3. The women's shelter in Yoba was called New Dawn Home, a name that felt cruelly ironic as Folake stepped through its peeling green gates. The building was a converted 3-bedroom bungalow, now housing 17 women and 12 children. The smell hit her first. Cassava fufu cooking, baby formula, desperation. "You the cucumber woman?" asked the intake coordinator, a heavy-set woman named Sister Margaret, not unkindly. "Saw you on Instagram. Whole Lagos talking." Folake's face burned. "I just need somewhere to stay. Temporarily. They all say temporary. Sister Margaret handed her a clipboard. Fill this. We have rules here. No men visitors, share cooking duties, lights out at 10 p.m. Bed space is 2,000 naira per week. You have money. Folake counted her remaining cash. 350 naira. Not enough. But I can. Work. Sister Margaret finished. You can help with cleaning, cooking, watching the children. We'll waive first week's fee. She studied Folake's designer jeans and silk blouse. You ever cleaned before? Real cleaning, not supervising housegirls. I can learn. You better. Pride doesn't feed you here. Folake's roommates were 3 women who'd already heard her story. The first was Blessing, different from Demilade's housekeeper, a 38-year-old former banker whose husband had emptied their account and fled to South Africa with his secretary. The second was Patience, 24, covered in fading bruises, who flinched at loud noises. The third was Mama Taiwo, 50-something, who'd lost a husband and home to his family after he died without a will. Rich husband. Blessing asked that first night, watching Folake struggle to fold her clothes into a shared metal locker. Yes. They're the worst ones, Blessing said matter-of-factly. Poor men beat you. Rich men destroy you legally, financially, socially, then act like victims when you fight back. She handed Folake a thin blanket. Welcome to reality. The first 3 days were hell. Folake scrubbed toilets she'd never have touched in her mansion. Washed dishes for 17 women. Bathed crying toddlers. Her manicured nails chipped and broke. Her soft hands blistered. At night, she lay on a thin mattress, listening to Patience's nightmares and Mama Taiwo's prayers, wondering how her life had collapsed so completely. On day 4, Sister Margaret called her to the office. Someone here to see you. Says she's a lawyer. Folake's heart leaped. Maybe her mother had changed her mind, sent help, but the woman who entered wasn't hired by family. She was mid-40s, dark-skinned, natural hair in locks, wearing a simple Ankara dress and carrying a worn briefcase. Mrs. Ogunlade? I'm Barrister Yewanda Okafor. She extended her hand. I specialize in divorce cases involving financial abuse and controlling partners. I'd like to represent you. I can't afford a lawyer. I have nothing. I know. That's why I'm here. Yewanda sat down uninvited. I read about your case. Saw the social media circus. And I recognized the pattern because 15 years ago, I was you. What do you mean? Rich husband. Controlled everything. When I tried to leave, he used the law to crush me. Had me declared mentally unstable, took my children, left me homeless. Yewanda's voice was steady but her eyes held old pain. Took me 3 years to get my kids back. 5 years to rebuild my life. I became a lawyer specifically to help women like us. Why would you work for free? Who said free? You'll pay me, eventually. When we win, you'll get a settlement. I take 30%. If we lose, you owe nothing. Yewanda pulled out documents. But I need to know everything, Folake. Every detail. No shame, no hiding. Can you do that? Folake hesitated, then nodded. For 2 hours, she talked. About Demilade's size, barely 3 inches erect, and his refusal to seek treatment. About the doctor's visits where he'd blamed her for not being stimulating enough. About the psychological warfare, tracking her phone, monitoring her spending, isolating her from friends, making her doubt her own sanity. About finding relief in cucumbers because human touch had become associated with shame and failure. Yewanda took notes without judgment. The cucumber detail, that's actually useful. Useful. It's humiliating. It proves sexual neglect. Nigerian law recognizes persistent refusal of conjugal rights as grounds for divorce. Combined with financial control and emotional abuse, we have a strong case. Yewanda flipped through her notes. But we need evidence. Do you have any documentation? Text messages, bank statements, medical records. Demilade has my phone. Everything was backed up to his iCloud. He has access to everything. Then we get new evidence. Starting with medical records. Yewanda leaned forward. You mentioned Demilade saw doctors about his condition. Which hospitals? Reddington, Victoria Island. Dr. Olyamide was his urologist. Good. I'll subpoena those records. They'll show he was diagnosed with micropenis and erectile dysfunction but refused treatment options. Yewanda made more notes. What about witnesses? Anyone who saw his controlling behavior? Folake thought carefully. His sister Ronk witnessed the cucumber confrontation. My former housekeeper Blessing, though Demilade probably paid her off. My gym instructor Tund, but... Wait. Tund who? Tund Bassi. We were friends. Just friends. But Demilade's using it to claim infidelity. Yewanda's expression darkened. Did anything physical happen between you? Never. We talked. Had coffee twice. He was kind when Demilade was cruel. That's all. Text messages. Folake's stomach dropped. He said things, supportive things. You deserve better. Your husband is a fool. Nothing sexual but Demilade will twist it. We need Tund's testimony that the relationship was platonic. Yewanda pulled out her phone. Give me his number. I'll contact him. He won't help. Demilade threatened him. He lost his job already. Let me try. Sometimes people surprise you when you ask properly. Hello, beautiful people. Thank you for sticking with this story. Your support means everything. If you're enjoying the drama, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. Have you ever had to start over from nothing? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Now let's see what happens next. That evening, while Folake helped prepare dinner, cutting vegetables with the same hands that once only held designer bags, her phone rang. She'd bought a cheap 5,000 naira phone with money borrowed from Sister Margaret. It was Yewanda. I have good news and bad news. Which first? Bad news. Tund won't testify. He's terrified of Demilade. Won't even meet with me. Folake's hope crumbled. And the good news? I found someone better. Remember that household staff member, Blessing? Turns out Demilade fired her yesterday, without severance, without references, after 8 years of service. She's angry. And angry people talk. She'll testify. More than that. She kept a diary. 8 years of observations. Demilade's affairs, his verbal abuse, his controlling behavior, how he monitored your every move. She documented everything because she knew someday she'd need protection. Yewanda's voice held triumph. Folake, this diary is explosive. Affairs with at least 5 women, including his current mistress Jinnaka. Details about how he deliberately kept you dependent. Evidence of financial manipulation. For the first time in weeks, Folake felt something like hope. Will a court accept a housekeeper's diary? Combined with medical records and your testimony? Absolutely. Especially if we can prove a pattern of abuse. Yewanda paused. There's something else. Blessing said Demilade has a safe in his study. Contains documents he doesn't want anyone to see. Offshore accounts, second properties, assets he's hidden from taxes. She doesn't know the combination, but she knows it exists. How does that help us? Because if we can prove he's hiding assets, we can challenge the divorce settlement. He's claiming you deserve nothing, but if he has millions stashed away that aren't in official records, we can argue for discovery. Force him to reveal everything. Folake's mind raced. How do we access that safe? We don't. We petition the court to compel him to disclose all assets under oath. If he lies and we can prove it later, he commits perjury. Either way, we win. That night, Folake couldn't sleep, But for the first time, it wasn't from despair. It was strategy. Demilade thought he'd destroyed her. He'd taken her home, her money, her reputation. But he'd made one critical mistake. He'd underestimated her capacity to survive. The next morning, Yewanda called with urgent news. Demilade's lawyers filed for an emergency hearing. They want the psychiatric evaluation done immediately. We're in court tomorrow at 9 a.m. Tomorrow? I'm not ready. You'll never be ready. But here's what you need to know. They'll try to paint you as unstable, irrational, dangerous. You need to be calm, composed, dignified. Let me do the talking. Can you do that? Folake looked around the shelter, at women rebuilding from nothing, at children laughing despite trauma, at Blessing teaching patients how to write a CV on borrowed laptop. These women had survived. So would she. Yes, she said firmly. I can do that. Good. Because tomorrow, we show Lagos exactly who Demilade Ogunlade really is. And Folake. Yewanda's voice softened. Wear something simple. Not expensive. Let them see the woman he reduced you to. That's our strongest weapon. As Folake hung up, Mama Taiwo approached with a wrapped bundle. I heard you going to court. This was my daughter's. She's in university now. It should fit. Inside was a simple navy dress. Clean, modest, dignified. The dress of a woman with nothing to hide and everything to fight for. Folake held it to her chest and, for the first time since the cucumber incident, allowed herself to cry. Not from weakness, but from gratitude. From determination. From the terrifying, exhilarating realization that she was about to fight the biggest battle of her life. And she refused to lose. Do you think Folake can win in court against a billionaire? What would you do in her situation? Drop your comments below and don't forget to subscribe. The Ikeja High Court was everything Folake remembered from TV dramas. Imposing, bureaucratic, smelling of old wood and stale air. She sat beside Yewanda on a hard wooden bench, wearing Mama Taiwo's navy dress, her hair pulled back in a simple bun. No makeup. No jewelry. Just a woman stripped of everything except her truth. Across the aisle, Demilade sat with Barrister Okonkwo and two junior lawyers, all in expensive agbadas and suits. Demilade wore his power like armor, Patek Philippe watch, custom shoes, an expression of bored confidence. He didn't even glance at Folake. Behind him sat his sister Ronk, his business partner Uncle Segan, and surprisingly, Folake's own mother, Mama Ibukan. Her mother refused to meet her eyes. All rise for the Honorable Justice Obioma Nwankwo. The judge was a woman in her 60s, stern-faced, grey wig perfectly positioned. Folake's heart lifted slightly. Maybe a female judge would understand. We're here for an emergency petition, Justice Nwankwo began, reading from documents. Mr. Demilade Ogunlade seeks court-ordered psychiatric evaluation of his wife, Mrs. Folake Ogunlade, on grounds that she poses a danger to herself and others due to mental instability. Barrister Okonkwo, present your case. Okonkwo stood, commanding the room. Your Honor, Mrs. Ogunlade's behavior has become increasingly erratic and dangerous. On the night of October 28th, she had a violent outburst during a private family gathering, making wild accusations and displaying clear signs of psychosis. Objection. Yewanda stood calmly. The gathering was a formal anniversary dinner with 23 guests. Hardly private. And my client's statements were factual, not delusional. Factual. Okonkwo's eyebrows shot up. She publicly claimed to prefer vegetables to her husband's intimate companionship. She humiliated him before respected members of Lagos society. She destroyed his reputation with baseless. Not baseless, Yewanda interrupted. My client spoke truth about her husband's medical condition and his refusal to address it. Truth is not psychosis, Your Honor. Justice Nwankwo held up her hand. I'll hear evidence before ruling on objections. Barrister Okonkwo, continue. Thank you, Your Honor. We have testimony from multiple witnesses. He gestured to Ronk. Mrs. Ronk Ogunlade Williams, the respondent's sister-in-law, witnessed the breakdown firsthand. Ronk took the stand, visibly uncomfortable. Under oath, she described that night. Folake screaming, the cucumbers, the crude gestures. But Yawanda's cross-examination was surgical. Mrs. Williams, in the months before this incident, did you ever visit your brother's home? Yes, occasionally. Did you notice anything unusual about the marriage? Ronk hesitated. They seemed tense sometimes. Tense how? Demilade would call Folake multiple times when she was out. Asked where she was, who she was with. But that's normal concern. Is it normal for a husband to track his wife's phone without her knowledge? Objection. Okonkwo jumped up. Relevance. I'm establishing a pattern of control, Your Honor, which explains my client's emotional state. I'll allow it. Mrs. Williams, answer the question. Ronk squirmed. I don't know if he tracked her phone. But you knew he controlled her finances? That she couldn't spend more than 50,000 naira without his permission? That's just Demilade being careful with money. Careful. Or controlling. Yawanda pulled out bank statements. Your Honor, these show that Mrs. Ogunlade had no independent access to funds. Every transaction was monitored. Every withdrawal questioned. This isn't financial prudence, it's economic abuse. Objection. This hearing is about mental stability, not marriage counseling. Justice Nwankwo looked thoughtful. Overruled. The context of Mrs. Ogunlade's emotional state is relevant. Continue, Barrister Okafor. Yawanda pressed on. Mrs. Williams, did your brother ever discuss his medical condition with you? Ronk's face paled. That's private. Did he tell you he'd been diagnosed with micropenis and erectile dysfunction? That doctors recommended treatment which he refused. The courtroom erupted in whispers. Demilade's jaw clenched so hard a vein popped in his temple. We don't discuss such things. Because it's shameful? Or because acknowledging it would mean acknowledging your brother neglected his wife's needs for 4 years? Objection. Badgering the witness. Sustained. Barrister Okafor, rephrase. But the damage was done. Yawanda had planted doubt. She returned to her seat, squeezing Folake's hand under the table. Next, Okonkwo called Dr. Ibrahim Owusu, the psychiatrist Demilade had mentioned. He was young, polished, clearly expensive. Dr. Owusu, based on the description of Mrs. Ogunlade's behavior, what's your professional assessment? Without a formal evaluation, I can't diagnose. But the behaviors described, public outbursts, hypersexuality, irrational accusations, could indicate bipolar disorder, borderline personality disorder, or severe stress-induced psychosis. Immediate evaluation is critical. Thank you, Doctor. Okonkwo smiled triumphantly. Yawanda stood for cross-examination. Dr. Owusu, you said, could indicate. Not, definitely indicates. Correct. Correct. I'd need to evaluate. And these same behaviors could also indicate a trauma response to prolonged abuse, couldn't they? Possibly, but... In fact, Doctor, isn't it true that victims of domestic abuse often have explosive emotional reactions when they finally escape their abusers? That what looks like instability is actually a normal response to abnormal circumstances. Dr. Owusu shifted uncomfortably. That's one interpretation. One backed by research. Yawanda produced a medical journal. This study from the University of Ibadan shows that 73% of abuse victims display symptoms initially mistaken for mental illness. Were you aware of this research? Yes, but this case is exactly that, isn't it? A powerful man trying to pathologize his wife's justified anger. Yawanda's voice rose. Tell me, Doctor, who's paying for your testimony today? Objection. Withdrawn. Yewanda sat down. No further questions. Justice Nwankwo called a brief recess. In the hallway, Folake's hands wouldn't stop shaking. "You're doing great," Yewanda assured her. "We've created reasonable doubt. Now we present our case." "My mother's here," Folake whispered. "Supporting him. Family often sides with power over truth. Don't let it break you. Stay focused." When court resumed, Yewanda called her first witness, Blessing, the fired housekeeper. Blessing looked terrified in the witness box, clutching her diary. "Ms. Blessing Okonkwo, how long did you work for the Ogunlades?" 8 years, Ma. "In those 8 years, what did you observe about their marriage?" Blessing's voice was barely audible. Oga was very strict, very controlling. He would shout at Madam for small things, talking too long on phone, wearing certain clothes, laughing with guests. He made her feel like she was always doing something wrong. "Did you ever witness physical violence?" "No, Ma." But the way he talked to her, it was like he was beating her with words. Every day, small insults. "You're useless. You're lucky I married you. Your family would be nothing without me." Demilade's face remained impassive, but his hands gripped the armrest. "Tell the court about his affairs." Objection. Irrelevant to mental health evaluation. "Your Honor, it's relevant to show who's actually unstable in this marriage," Yewanda argued. "I'll allow it, but be brief." Blessing opened her diary with trembling hands. There was Sister Jinika, that's Oga's personal assistant. She would come to the house when Madam traveled. They would go to the bedroom together. I saw them kissing in the kitchen once. Before that, there was Sister Ngozi, Sister Kemi, Sister Jumoke. "That's enough," Okonkwo shouted. "These are unsubstantiated rumors from a disgruntled ex-employee." "These are documented observations," Yewanda countered, holding up the diary. "With dates, times, and details. Your Honor, I request this diary be admitted as evidence." Justice Nwankwo examined it. "I'll admit it for review." Continue. "Ms. Okonkwo, did Mr. Ogunlade ever discuss his medical condition with you?" "Yes, Ma. One day I heard him on phone with his doctor. He was angry, said he doesn't need surgery, that real men don't need pills to satisfy women. He said Madam should appreciate what she has." Blessing's voice grew stronger. "But I also heard Madam crying in the bedroom many nights. Crying and crying. No woman cries like that if she's satisfied." The courtroom was dead silent. "Thank you, Ms. Okonkwo." No further questions. Okonkwo tried to discredit Blessing, asked about her firing, suggested she was lying for revenge, but she held firm. Her diary entries were too detailed, too consistent to dismiss. Finally, Justice Nwankwo turned to Folake. "Mrs. Ogunlade, would you like to testify?" Yewanda squeezed her hand. They'd prepared for this. Folake stood, legs shaking, and approached the witness stand. Under oath, she told her story. Not with rage or tears, but with quiet dignity. She described the first year of marriage, how Demilade's sexual encounters lasted less than 3 minutes, how he blamed her for his inadequacy, how he refused to see doctors despite her begging. She described the slow suffocation of control, monitored phones, restricted finances, isolated friendships. She described discovering the cucumbers, desperate, humiliating, but the only way she could experience physical relief. "I'm not crazy," she said, looking directly at the judge. "I'm a woman who spent 4 years being gaslit, controlled, and sexually neglected by a man who cared more about his ego than my humanity. That night, I finally broke. Not from mental illness, but from being human." When she stepped down, she finally looked at her mother. Mama Ibukan was crying. Justice Nwankwo reviewed her notes for what felt like hours. Finally, she spoke. "This court finds insufficient evidence to warrant forced psychiatric evaluation. Mrs. Ogunlade's behavior, while unfortunate, appears consistent with extreme emotional distress rather than mental illness. However, given the breakdown of this marriage, I'm ordering both parties to undergo marriage counseling." "No," Folake's voice rang out. Everyone stared. "Your Honor, with respect, I don't want counseling. I want a divorce." Demilade's eyes flashed with fury. Justice Nwankwo raised an eyebrow. "You're certain? Divorce proceedings can be lengthy and difficult." "I'm certain. I won't spend another day with a man who treats me like property." "Very well. I'm ordering both parties to mediation for asset division. We'll reconvene in 2 weeks." The gavel struck. Court dismissed. As people filed out, Demilade approached Folake, his voice low and venomous. "You think you won? I'll make sure you get nothing. Not 1 naira. You'll regret this." But Folake stood tall, no longer the broken woman from the shelter. "I already have something you can never take away. My truth. And Lagos now knows yours." Outside the courthouse, Yewande grinned. "That was brilliant. We've got momentum now. What happens next?" "Now we go to war. Full divorce proceedings. Asset discovery. And Folake." Yewande's eyes gleamed. "We're going to destroy him legally, the way he tried to destroy you emotionally." For the first time in weeks, Folake smiled. Really smiled. The war had just begun. What do you think Demilade will do next? Can Folake really win against a billionaire's resources? Drop your predictions in the comments and don't forget to like and subscribe. 2 days after the court hearing, Folake woke at 5 a.m. to aggressive banging on the shelter door. Sister Margaret answered, then rushed to their room, face pale. "Folake, police are here. They have a warrant." "Warrant for what?" Folake scrambled out of bed, heart hammering. 3 officers pushed into the small room, led by a hefty sergeant. "Mrs. Folake Ogunlade? You're under arrest for theft of marital property valued at 8.5 million naira." "What? I didn't steal anything." The sergeant produced documents. "Your husband filed a report. Claims you took jewelry, electronics, and cash before leaving the matrimonial home. You'll need to come with us." Yewande had warned her Demilade would retaliate, but this fast? "Those items were gifts. They're mine. Tell it to the judge. Let's go." At the police station in Surulere, Folake spent 6 hours in a holding cell that reeked of urine and despair. The other women there, prostitutes, petty thieves, one woman who'd stabbed her abusive husband, stared at her designer jeans with a mix of curiosity and resentment. "Rich woman problems," one muttered. "Must be nice." Folake wanted to scream that she had 150 naira to her name, no home, no family support. But what was the point? To the world, she was still the billionaire's wife. They couldn't see the cage, only the gold bars. Finally, Yewande arrived with bail. "He's playing dirty. Those items? Birthday gifts, anniversary presents, all documented in photos he posted on Instagram himself. The charges won't stick, but he knows that. This is harassment." "How much was bail?" 200,000 naira. "I paid it from my firm's account. You'll repay me from the settlement." "If there is a settlement," Folake said bitterly, "there will be. Trust me." Yewande's phone buzzed. She read the message and her expression darkened. "Folake, I need to show you something." They went to a nearby cafe. Yewande pulled up Lagos gossip blog, Gist Central. New headline, Cucumber Wife's Dirty Secret, Affair with Gym Instructor Exposed. Below were photos. Folake and Tund at a cafe, laughing. Tund's hand on her shoulder. Them walking together after a workout session. Innocent moments twisted by captions. While husband worked to provide, ungrateful wife was busy with side piece. Where did these come from? Demilade's been following you. Or hired someone to. These photos are from 3 months ago. Yewande scrolled further. Look at the comments. She was cheating all along. That's why she complained about her husband. Gym instructor? How cliché. Gold digging runs both ways. Poor ogre Demilade. Married to a prostitute. But then Folake saw something unexpected. A comment from an account named Lagos_truth_teller. Y'all defending a man who refused to satisfy his wife for 4 years? Who controlled her money, her movements, her life? She found comfort in a friend. So what? That's not cheating, that's survival. The comment had 2,300 likes. Below it, others. Finally someone with sense. Sexual neglect is abuse. If your husband had a 3-inch penis and refused treatment, you'd be looking elsewhere too. Why are we blaming her for his inadequacy? The math isn't matching. The tide was slowly turning. Not everywhere. Conservative Lagos still largely condemned her, but younger women, frustrated wives, people tired of patriarchal double standards were beginning to speak up. This is good, Yewande said. Public opinion matters in Nigeria. Judges watch social media too. If enough people see you as a victim rather than a villain, it helps our case. But these photos are innocent. We'll get Ton to confirm nothing happened. Yewande paused. Actually, I have an idea. What if we find Tund ourselves? He's scared of Demilade, but if we can convince him to go public, tell his side of the story, it could change everything. He already refused to testify. Because we asked legally. What if we asked as human beings? They found Tund at his mother's house in Mushin, a cramped face-me-face-you building where cooking smoke and children's laughter filled the narrow corridors. He answered the door shirtless, skinnier than Folake remembered, eyes haunted. Folake. You can't be here. He glanced around nervously. If Demilade finds out. Please, Tund. Just 5 minutes. Inside his tiny room, mattress on the floor, torn curtains, photos of his daughter on the wall. Tund collapsed onto a plastic chair. I lost everything. My job, my gym membership, my apartment. Had to move back with my mother. Demilade's people threatened me, said I'd never work in Lagos again if I talked to you. His voice cracked. I have a daughter, Folake. 5 years old. Her mother doesn't support her. It's just me. I can't fight a billionaire. Yewande spoke gently. What if you didn't have to fight alone? What if there were others? Others. Demilade has enemies. People he's cheated in business. Women he's mistreated. We're building a case. If you testify that your relationship with Folake was innocent, just friendship, it destroys his infidelity narrative. And then what? He destroys my life even more. Folake knelt beside him. Tund, you told me once that truth matters. That good people can't stay silent while powerful people lie. Did you mean it? Tund's eyes filled with tears. I did. But truth doesn't pay rent. Truth doesn't feed my daughter. No. But maybe justice does. Yewande pulled out documents. If we win this case, and I believe we will, there'll be a settlement. Large enough that I can pay witnesses for their time and trouble. Large enough that you could restart your life. You're bribing me? I'm compensating you for the risk. There's a difference. Yewande's voice hardened. Men like Demilade win because good people are too scared to speak up. They win because they make the cost of truth higher than the cost of silence. But what if we changed that equation? Tund looked at his daughter's photo. What do I have to do? Tell your story. Sign an affidavit stating your relationship with Folake was platonic. If necessary, testify in court. Yewande leaned forward. And maybe, if you're willing, do a video interview. Let Lagos hear from you directly. A video. That's suicide. Or it's armor, Folake said quietly. Right now, Demilade controls the narrative. He's painted you as my secret lover, me as a cheater. But if people hear your voice, see your face, hear that you're a single father trying to survive, they might think twice about whose side they're on. Tund sat in silence for a long moment. Outside, children played football in the narrow corridor, their laughter a reminder of innocence in a complicated world. "Okay," he finally said. "I'll do it. Not for money. For my daughter. So she grows up knowing her father stood up for what's right, even when it was terrifying." The video interview happened 2 days later in Yawanda's modest office. Tund sat before a borrowed camera, hands shaking but voice steady. "My name is Tund Bassi. I'm a gym instructor, was a gym instructor, and I want to clear something up. Mrs. Folake Ogunlade and I were friends. Nothing more. She came to my gym broken, sad, trapped in a marriage that was killing her spirit. We talked. I listened. Sometimes we had coffee after workouts. That's it." He took a deep breath. "I never touched her inappropriately. Never kissed her. Never even thought about it because I respected her pain too much. She wasn't looking for an affair. She was looking for a human being who wouldn't make her feel worthless. And honestly, if her husband had spent half the energy loving her that he spent destroying her, we wouldn't be here." Tund looked directly at the camera. "Mr. Ogunlade, you're a coward. You couldn't satisfy your wife, so you blamed her. You couldn't control her emotions, so you tried to control her entire life. And now that she's free, you're using your money and power to punish her for daring to want better. That's not strength. That's weakness." The video ended. Yawanda uploaded it to YouTube and sent it to 5 media contacts. Within 12 hours, it had 89,000 views. Within 24 hours, #JusticeForFolake was trending on Nigerian Twitter. Within 48 hours, women across Lagos were sharing their own stories of sexual neglect, financial control, and emotional abuse. The cucumber incident, once a source of mockery, became a symbol of women's silenced struggles. A Lagos radio host dedicated her morning show to the topic. How many women are suffering in silence because society tells them to be grateful for crumbs? A popular Instagram influencer posted, "We dragged Folake for speaking her truth. Maybe we should drag the system that made her truth so shameful." Even Pastor Adeyemi from Folake's church, who'd initially condemned her, gave a sermon about how the church sometimes protects abusers instead of victims. But with visibility came danger. On the 5th day after Tund's video dropped, someone threw a brick through Yawanda's office window with a note, "Drop the case or next time it's acid." On the 6th day, the shelter received an anonymous call threatening to burn down the building with all those useless women inside. On the 7th day, Folake was followed home from the market by 2 men on an Okada. They didn't attack, just followed close enough to terrify her. "He's escalating," Yawanda said, reporting the incidents to police who showed little interest. Demilade realizes he's losing the PR war, so he's resorting to intimidation. "Maybe we should stop," Folake whispered, fear finally cracking her resolve. "Maybe it's not worth." "Worth what?" "Your freedom. Your dignity. Your life." Yawanda gripped her shoulders. "This is exactly what he wants, for you to be too scared to fight. Don't give him that victory." "But what if someone gets hurt? What if?" Yawanda's phone rang. She answered, listened, then slowly smiled. "Folake, you need to hear this." She put the call on speaker. A woman's voice, young and nervous. "Hello? Is this Barrister Okafor? My name is Jinika Nwosu. I was Demilade Ogunlade's mistress. And I want to help Folake." The room went silent except for the sound of traffic outside and hope, dangerous and fragile, filling the spaces between heartbeats. "Do you think Jinika's testimony will change everything? What would you do if you were Folake? Keep fighting or walk away? Comment below and don't forget to subscribe." Jinika Nwosu sat across from Folake in Yawanda's cramped office, impossibly beautiful even in her nervousness. 26 years old, curves that Instagram loved, smooth dark skin, and eyes that couldn't quite meet Folake's. "I'm sorry," Jinika said quietly. "For everything. I knew he was married. I knew it was wrong. But he made me feel special, important, until I realized I was just another possession to him. Folake studied the woman her husband had chosen over her. Younger, yes. But sadness aged people in ways that had nothing to do with years. Jinica looked exhausted. Why are you here? Folake asked, voice carefully neutral. Because yesterday, Demilade told me you'd never win. That he'd make sure you ended up in a psychiatric hospital or dead in a gutter. He laughed while saying it. Jinica's hands trembled. Then he tried to force himself on me. When I said no, he slapped me. Said I was his property, that he owned me because he paid my rent and bought my car. She pulled back her scarf, revealing a fading bruise on her cheek. That's when I realized, I'm you. Just younger. He's grooming me to be his next controlled wife. Jinica looked up, tears streaming. I don't want to become what you escaped. So I'm here to tell you everything. For the next 3 hours, Jinica talked. Yewanda recorded every word. Demilade had been seeing Jinica for 18 months, longer than his claims of Folake's infidelity. He'd installed her in a 2-bedroom apartment in Lekki, gave her a monthly allowance of 500,000 naira, bought her a Mercedes. But the gifts came with conditions. She couldn't have male friends, couldn't post certain photos online, had to be available whenever he called. He tracked her phone, monitored her spending. Exactly like he'd done to Folake. He told me you were crazy, Jinica said. That you refused to sleep with him, that you were ungrateful and mentally ill. He made himself the victim. She wiped her eyes. But then I saw Tun's video. Saw the way women online were sharing their stories. And I realized, Demilade lies about everything. Did he ever discuss his condition with you? Folake asked carefully. Jinica nodded. He has erectile dysfunction. Sometimes he can't perform at all. Other times it's over in seconds. He takes Viagra, but even then. She paused, embarrassed. He blamed me too. Said I wasn't attractive enough, wasn't doing enough. Made me feel like I was failing him. The same words he used on me, Folake whispered. Exactly the same. That's when I understood. It's not about us. It's about his ego. He can't fix his problem, so he destroys women who remind him of his inadequacy. Yewanda leaned forward. Jinica, will you testify? In court, under oath. Yes. But I need protection. Demilade is dangerous when cornered. We'll arrange it. Police protection, safe house if necessary. Yewanda pulled out documents. I need you to sign an affidavit detailing everything. The affair, the abuse, his lies about Folake. Can you do that? Jinica signed without hesitation. As she left, she turned to Folake. I know you probably hate me. I don't hate you, Folake said honestly. I pity both of us. We both believed his lies. The difference is, you got out before marriage trapped you. After Jinica left, Yewanda practically glowed. This changes everything. We now have proof of infidelity, pattern of abuse across multiple women, and evidence that he lied about you. The mediation is in 3 days. We go in strong. But that night, as Folake tried to sleep in the shelter, her phone buzzed. Unknown number. Against her better judgment, she answered. Folake. Demilade's voice was ice. I know Jinica came to see you. Her blood froze. How? I know everything. I have eyes everywhere. He laughed without humor. You think you're winning? You think one confused girl changes anything? She's not confused. She's brave. Braver than you'll ever be. Brave. His voice turned venomous. I'll destroy her. I'll release her sex tapes. Yes, I recorded everything. I'll make sure her family disowns her. I'll ruin her the way I'm ruining you. You're proving exactly what she said. You're a monster. No. I'm a businessman protecting my interests. And you, Folake, are a bad investment I should have liquidated years ago. His breathing was heavy now, rage barely controlled. But here's what's going to happen. You're going to drop this divorce. You're going to publicly apologize for the cucumber incident. You're going to come back home and be the obedient wife you should have been from the start. Never. Then I'll make sure your mother loses her house. Your brother's business will collapse. I control his suppliers. Your sister will never get into that university she applied for. I donate to their board. Each threat was delivered calmly, methodically. Everyone you love will suffer because of your stubbornness. Folake's hands shook, but her voice remained steady. Do whatever you want, Demilade. I'm not coming back. I'd rather be homeless and free than imprisoned in your mansion. You'll regret. She hung up, then immediately called Yewanda. He threatened my family. Said he'd destroy everyone I love. Let him try. We're documenting everything. These threats are criminal intimidation. Yewanda's voice was fierce. Folake, we're so close. Don't let him break you now. The mediation took place in a conference room at the High Court. Sterile, fluorescent lit, with a long table separating the warring parties. The mediator was Justice Adebayo, a retired judge known for fairness. Demilade arrived with his legal team and a new weapon, Folake's mother. Mama. Folake's voice broke. What are you doing here? Mama Ibukan wouldn't meet her eyes. Your husband asked me to speak sense into you, to help you understand what you're throwing away. I'm throwing away abuse, Mama. Control. Humiliation. You're throwing away security. Stability. Her mother's voice rose. Do you know what people are saying about our family? Your father would be ashamed. Papa would be ashamed that his daughter stayed with a man who treated her like property. Folake felt tears burning. Or ashamed that his wife values money over her daughter's dignity. Mama Ibukan flinched. Justice Adebayo cleared his throat. Perhaps we should begin. Mr. Ogunlade, you've proposed a settlement. Please present it. Barrister Okonkwo slid documents across the table. My client is willing to grant a divorce with the following terms. Mrs. Ogunlade receives 2 million naira as final settlement. She relinquishes all claims to properties, vehicles, businesses, and future earnings. She signs a non-disclosure agreement prohibiting her from discussing the marriage publicly. And she issues a public apology for defamation. Yewanda laughed. Actually laughed. 2 million naira? For a 4-year marriage to a billionaire? That's insulting. It's generous, Okonkwo countered. Considering Mrs. Ogunlade brought nothing into the marriage and has now destroyed my client's reputation. Your client destroyed his own reputation by being an abusive, controlling, sexually inadequate husband who refused treatment. Yewanda pulled out her own documents. Here's our counteroffer. 50% of all marital assets, including the Banana Island mansion, offshore accounts, and business holdings. Plus 500,000 naira monthly spousal support for 5 years. And Mr. Ogunlade issues a public statement acknowledging his medical condition and controlling behavior. Absolutely not. Demilade slammed his fist on the table. I built everything. She contributed nothing. She contributed 4 years of her life, her dignity, her mental health. Yewanda's voice was steel. And according to Nigerian law, marital assets are jointly owned regardless of who earned them. She cheated with a gym instructor. We have sworn affidavits proving that relationship was platonic. Meanwhile, we have evidence, Yewanda placed photos on the table, of your affair with Miss Ginika Nwosu. Hotel receipts, text messages, witness testimony. You're the adulterer, Mr. Ogunlade. Not your wife. Demilade's face went purple. Those are fabricated. These are from your own credit card statements, which we subpoenaed. You paid for hotel rooms, jewelry, rent, all for your mistress, while claiming your wife was unstable. Yewanda smiled coldly. So let's be very clear, you have no moral high ground. Your reputation is already destroyed. The question now is whether you want to settle reasonably or have everything exposed in open court. Justice Adebayo examined the documents. Mr. Ogunlade, these allegations are serious. If proven, they significantly weaken your position. They're lies. All lies orchestrated by my vengeful wife. Then you won't mind if we call witnesses? Yewanda pulled out her phone. Jinika Nwosu is waiting outside. So is your former housekeeper Blessing. So are 3 other women you had affairs with who've come forward in the past week. Should we bring them in? The room went silent. Demilade's lawyers huddled, whispering urgently. Mama Ibukan looked between her daughter and son-in-law, confusion and horror dawning on her face. Finally, Okonkwo spoke. We request a recess to consult with our client. Granted. 1 hour. As people filed out, Mama Ibukan approached Folake. Is it true? He really had all these women? Yes, Mama. While telling me I wasn't good enough. While controlling every aspect of my life. While making me feel crazy for wanting basic respect. Her mother's eyes filled with tears. I didn't know. I thought you were just being difficult. Modern. Ungrateful. She touched Folake's face. I failed you. I taught you to endure instead of teaching you that you deserved better. Mama. No. Let me say this. Mama Ibukan took a shaky breath. Your father, God rest him, he wasn't perfect. But he never made me feel worthless. Never controlled my money or tracked my movements. I thought all marriages required sacrifice, but I see now there's a difference between compromise and erasure. She pulled Folake into her arms. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Folake sobbed into her mother's shoulder, years of pain and loneliness finally finding release. When mediation resumed, something had shifted. Demilade looked cornered, desperate. His lawyers looked resigned. We have a revised offer, Okonkwo said quietly. 25 million naira lump sum. The boutique ownership transferred to Mrs. Ogunlade. And dropping of all criminal charges against her. And Yewanda prompted. No public statement. No admission of guilt. Just a quiet divorce. Yewanda looked at Folake. This was her decision. Folake thought about everything she'd lost. Everything she'd survived. The women at the shelter who'd held her when she cried. Tund who'd risked everything to tell the truth. Jinika who'd chosen courage over comfort. 35 million, Folake said clearly. The boutique. Dropping all charges. And one more thing. Demilade funds a women's shelter. 5 million naira annually for the next 10 years. To help women escape situations like mine. That's absurd. Demilade exploded. I'm not funding your feminist agenda. Then we go to court, Folake said calmly. And I tell Lagos everything. Not just about your affairs and abuse, but about the offshore accounts you're hiding from tax authorities. The business deals where you bribed government officials. The property you bought with laundered money. Demilade went pale. You don't have proof. Your housekeeper Blessing was very thorough in her record-keeping. 8 years of observations. Names, dates, amounts. Folake leaned forward. You wanted to destroy me, Demilade. Instead, you gave me the weapons to destroy you. So here's the choice. Accept my terms, or I burn your empire to the ground and dance in the ashes. The silence stretched. Demilade's lawyers whispered frantically. Finally, jaw clenched so hard it looked painful, Demilade nodded. Fine. 35 million. The boutique. The shelter funding. But you sign the NDA. You never speak of this marriage again. I'll sign an NDA protecting your business secrets, Folake countered. But I reserve the right to tell my story. Other women need to know they're not alone. That survival is possible. After more negotiation, They reached agreement. Papers were drawn up. As Folake signed her name, her hand steady, she felt something she hadn't felt in years. Power. Not over anyone else, but over her own life. Outside the courthouse, Yawanda hugged her fiercely. You did it. You actually did it. We did it, Folake corrected. I couldn't have survived this without you. News of the settlement spread quickly. Social media exploded. Folake won. 35 million plus business. #Justice for Folake. This is what happens when women stop accepting crumbs. Demilade probably regrets messing with the wrong one. But the best message came from an unknown number. Thank you. I'm leaving my abusive husband tomorrow because you showed me it's possible to survive. You saved my life. Folake read it through tears and realized her pain hadn't been wasted. Her humiliation had become someone else's hope. 3 months later, Folake stood in her newly renovated boutique, now fully hers, renamed Folake's Phoenix, after the mythical bird that rises from ashes. The grand reopening drew crowds. Women who'd followed her story, supporters, survivors, and curiosity seekers. Mama Ibukan was there, helping arrange displays. Yawanda was there, already representing 3 new clients inspired by Folake's victory. Even Tund came with his daughter, who shyly gave Folake a drawing, a woman with wings flying above a broken cage. What will you do now? A journalist asked, camera rolling. Folake smiled. Live. Really live. Not just exist in someone else's shadow, but build something meaningful. The shelter funding starts next month. We're calling it New Dawn Women's Foundation. We'll help women escape abuse, rebuild their lives, find their power. Any regrets about the cucumber incident? Folake laughed. Genuinely laughed. You know what? No. Was it messy? Absolutely. Humiliating. Completely. But it was also the moment I stopped prioritizing his comfort over my truth. Sometimes you have to burn everything down to rebuild something authentic. And Demilade? I hope he gets help. Real help. Not just for his physical condition, but for whatever brokenness makes him need to control and diminish others. She paused. But mostly, I hope I never have to think about him again. As the journalist left, Jinika approached nervously. Folake, I wanted to thank you. For not hating me. For showing me escape was possible. I enrolled in university. Business management. Going to build something that's truly mine. That's beautiful, Folake said, squeezing her hand. You deserve happiness, Jinika. Real happiness. Not the conditional scraps powerful men offer. That night, alone in her modest but peaceful apartment, nowhere near Banana Island's luxury, but entirely hers, Folake reflected on her journey. From billionaire's wife to homeless shelter resident to independent business owner. From silence to scandal to strength. Her phone buzzed. A message from Blessing, the housekeeper. Madam, I got a new job. Good pay, kind employers. Thank you for giving me courage to demand better. Folake smiled and typed back. You gave yourself courage. I just witnessed it. She thought about the cucumbers that had started everything. That desperate, humiliating solution to years of neglect. Social media had turned them into memes, jokes, symbols. But to Folake, they represented something deeper. The lengths women go to survive in situations that are slowly killing them. The secret compromises, the silent suffering, the shame of having needs that society deemed inappropriate. No more secrets. No more shame. She opened her laptop and began to write. Not for publication. She'd signed the NDA protecting Demilade's business dealings, but for herself. Her story. Her truth. Every painful, messy, triumphant detail. Because someone, somewhere, was lying awake right now in a marriage that felt like a prison. Someone was being told their needs didn't matter, their feelings were wrong, their suffering was deserved. And that someone needed to know, you're not crazy. You're not alone. And survival. Real, messy, hard-won survival, is absolutely possible. Folake looked at Tun's daughter's drawing on her wall, the woman with wings flying free, and for the first time in 4 years, she felt like herself again. Not perfect. Not healed. But free. And freedom, she'd learned, was worth every cucumber, every tear, every terrifying step into the unknown. The end. What did you think of Folake's journey? Have you or someone you know experienced similar struggles? Share your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell for more powerful stories like this one. If this story touched you, please share it with someone who needs to hear it. Sometimes knowing someone else survived can be the spark that lights our own path to freedom. Thank you for watching Stories by Stoner. Until next time, remember, your truth is powerful, your voice matters, and you deserve to be free.